Today, the Parrot Anafi. Well, it might be a new aerial mapping powerhouse. Today on Ask Drone U Reviews, we're talking about, well, the next evolution of mapping drones. Drones that were once affordable and powerful, well, they've been discontinued, and they've been replaced with drones that typically cost 5 to 10x more, and yet offer a tenth of the features. Historically speaking, drone mappers who are looking for a drone in the past, well, they would have probably purchased a Phantom for around $2,000. Well, the nearest competition to that now will cost you about 5x that amount, and DJI is even pushing its consumers to do mapping with the new M300P1 setup, which will set you back about 24 Gs. While few drone manufacturers have truly been able to compete with DJI on price point or feature set, Parrot is changing the rules of the game. They are redefining the competition as a whole, and they'll even push the envelope of what you know about drones and how they work. Look, drone pilots are desperate for an alternative to the Phantom as it has been taken out of the production and more expensive drones have simply replaced it. Pilots are desperate for an alternative that's affordable. They're desperate for an all-in-one drone that can do things like previous ancient aircraft could. Imagine that. Well, enter French company Parrot, who's actually been building drones for quite some time. Who remembers the AR 2.0 around 2011, 2012? They've been producing drones for quite some time, but now they've truly hit the mark and they'll be able to test their manufacturing capacity as a whole. Parrot, who's been listening to a broad base of users, has provided a fantastic alternative to what we knew as the Phantom, and I'm sure they wouldn't even want to be compared with such an ancient drone, but at the end of the day, those drones offer a whole lot of value, and it's a great all-in-one package. But Parrot has now designed a drone that competes on price and has numerous feature sets that are comparable with those ancient aircraft that we once knew. They've produced an aircraft that has great creative features and offers technical convenience as well. That's why we believe this drone has the potential to be the next aerial mapping powerhouse. Parrot may have even taken design features from nature itself. Taking these elements to the drawing board, they really produce a drone that is not, well, it's actually a masterpiece of aeronautical engineering or a masterpiece of aviation design. You know, here's the thing, guys. It's capable, it's portable, it's competitive. It's the Anafi. Hey, how do you say Anafi?
Anafi.
With a very unique look, the Anafi AI offers a powerful 48 megapixel camera, 6x zoom, and makes aerial mapping or drone mapping simple and easy with Pix4D capture autonomous missions built right into the app. It's never been more convenient and easy to take flight and create 2D and 3D data. Few manufacturers have been able to actually compete with DJI's long distance transmission on many of their drones through their OcuSync platforms. Well, Parrot has overcome this issue by completely changing the type of technology that we use in drones. They have truly transformed this drone into a phone. I'm sure you have heard that analogy before, that drones and phones, they're like platforms. You can have various apps on them that solve a variety of problems. Well, they have truly transformed the drone into a phone, because now you can fly this over cellular service. You can fly it over 4G LTE. It's a seamless transmission, and it's actually lower latency in sometimes when you're flying this drone over Wi-Fi in dense urban environments. It's a seamless transmission of signal as well. This drone will truly open the door for BVLOS operations for drone pilots. Want to know why? It's simple. With cellular technology, you can now fly this drone at pretty much unlimited distance. You can take it as far as the battery will go. Assuming you have a waiver, right? Okay, we crossed our T's and dotted our I's. That said, this drone will empower more oblique uses of this drone. Because of the capability to fly over cellular, larger drone mapping missions are going to be exceptionally easy and more convenient. In fact, like I said before, Pix4D Capture is built into the FreeFly 7 app. So you can fly single grids, double grids, orbits, and even in autonomous mode where the drone is essentially going to figure out the best route to be able to collect that 3D data. Frankly speaking, I think drone mappers are gonna love too, because we have this large 48 megapixel camera on this drone, we can actually fly at higher elevations than we did with previous mapping missions, and we can gather even, well, higher quality data. So that means our mapping missions are gonna be faster and more efficient and even higher quality. So let's say that you were flying a mapping mission with, say, a Phantom at 150 feet. Maybe you were getting a ground sampling distance of, say, a half an inch. Well, with this particular drone, your ground sampling distance would be much, much lower, meaning a higher quality map. So I think a lot of you are gonna love that feature just because it's gonna make your jobs a whole lot easier. The Anafi's exoskeleton makes the drone light, and the folding arms make this drone completely portable and frankly, extremely robust, and it offers strength, unlike the other Anafis that we've seen in the past. The drone does look like an insect. You'll even notice in flight as it's flying, the obstacle avoidance sensors will look forward, down, and back depending on how you're flying. It's very interesting to see for the first time if you haven't seen it. That said, it does have a long flight time. We've been getting about 30 plus minutes. It does look like an insect and it does look bug-eyed. I mean, even the propellers have these serrated edges, which are supposed to make them more efficient in flight. Frankly, it is agile, it is fun to fly. It's a lot more fun to fly than a lot of the new other drone manufacturers' drones that we've been getting in. It's also affordable in that it's only $4,000 for this entire drone package, which is frankly awesome because when you're getting 30 minutes of flight, and this is at high altitude, and you have obstacle avoidance, that 48 megapixel sensor, it takes great video, it takes great photos, the raw photos are great as well. It does have a burst mode, so if you're trying to shoot AEB stuff, you want to get those nice beautiful stacked images or those stacked panos, you can do it with this drone. Now, it's only $4,000. You might have heard that and said, whoa, only 4K. Well, if you look at the nearest competitor that can do drone mapping like this drone, you're looking at $9,000, $10,000, $12,000. You look at any of the DJI offerings, Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual Advance is gonna run you $6,000 to $7,000. So actually it is quite affordable when you factor in, inflation and you factor in the other current offerings right now, because simply stated, there aren't many. Let's talk about some of the stats of this particular drone. It can fly at 38 miles an hour. It has a weight of 366 grams. It's powered by only a 2S battery. That's the lowest voltage we've seen in a prosumer battery, but it is 3,350 milliamp hours. It says it's a 32-minute max flight time. We've been getting very close to that, frankly. The video quality, it'll shoot 4K 60, or you can use their HDR functionality and shoot in 4K 30. It does shoot 48 megapixel stills. You can zoom in. We noticed when we zoomed in though that it would really pixelate quite quickly. I'm guessing it's more of a digital zoom than an optical zoom. Also, like I said, it does shoot raw photos, and it's probably the closest thing to a competitive all-in-one package we've seen so far. Again, not as agile and not as powerful as some of the other drones, but it does offer the capability to get nice, smooth video, also colorful video. You can shoot and log as well. So if you're doing drone mapping, because this drone really is built for drone mapping, but it can also do great video and great photos as well. So if you're working for a company, a drone team, and your entire focus is drone mapping, but maybe you want to take photos for marketing, maybe you want to take videos for marketing, and you don't want just like Tony in the back flying the drone getting your videos because they look shaky and the tilt speed's not consistent and the exposure's fluctuating, or the shutter speed is too slow and it looks like it's clipping. I mean, we could go on and on here about the potential problems an amateur pilot would have. A good intermediate pilot is gonna be able to do a lot with this drone because it has the features that we're used to in the quote unquote ancient aircraft. And while the Anafi does deliver our favorite features, it also delivers it in a very easy to use interface. Frankly, it was fantastic. Let's just say the Anafi AI has the potential to rule the skies. And when it comes to some of the things that we've talked about, don't forget, when it comes to drone mapping, having that seamless, convenient, easy to use feature set from Pix4D really adds a lot to this particular package. There are so many other photogrammetric engines and companies that are also working with Parrot. I believe Bentley is one of them. And so you are really able to do so much, and it's all inside one application, no switching. And the fact that you have this big camera, well, now you can fly this drone and get missions done a lot faster. After having the Anafi for a few weeks, I want to give you, well, what I've learned from the experience as a whole. First up, let's talk about the battery. First off, charging the battery, it does kind of take a long time. My battery took about an hour 45 to charge on the charger that was provided by Parrot. The good news about this battery, it does not have a short discharge cycle like the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual will discharge batteries quite quickly sometimes, and that can make battery maintenance and management difficult for drone teams and programs, kind of like what we talk about on the props side of DroneU. That said, the battery after 10 days will go into quote unquote wintering mode, so it is a smart battery and you don't have to worry about that battery staying fully charged on the shelf. Over time, it will self-discharge, so that's cool. Charging the remote is super fast, but it dies fairly quickly as well. When it comes to controllability on this drone, I will say the drone is pretty agile. It is pretty stable. It does have that top speed of 38 miles an hour. The props change the flight characteristics of the bird when it gets a little bit lower in elevation and you've got a little bit of wind. But I will say I truly enjoyed flying this drone. The tilt and zoom sticks on the remote for controlling tilt on the gimbal and zoom as a whole, they're very sensitive. You can adjust those settings in the app themselves, but because it's a toggle instead of like a wheel, well, because of that, it has almost an exponential sensitivity. So you move it and it has a fast trigger point, I think is what I'm trying to say. I probably would not recommend this drone for any sort of action sports as far as like vehicles, boats, car commercials, etc. It does have a really cool tracking feature though, which we're going to talk about later when we talk about the application, but its tracking capabilities are fairly good. So I will say that if you did want to do some tracking with it, it does have that capability and it does actually do a pretty good job. So finishing up the experiences regarding the controllability of the drone, it does have multiple flight modes. It's got a regular film mode and a sport mode. That sport mode does allow you to fly more aggressively. Also helps when you're trying to fight the wind. Flying it very close over water, it did really well. It did not have any issues where it's sinking kind of into the water because those obstacle avoidance sensors are getting that reflectivity off the water. It performed really well. Also, it will help beginner pilots trying to enact any of those banking turns, those nice natural turns that we talk about in our aerial videography class. It does have a banking turns feature, so if you are yawing and pitching forward, it's going to automatically bank for you. That's pretty cool if you have that feature turned on. Now, let's talk about transmission. You can fly this drone a very long distance. I'd call it almost unlimited distance because it will fly as far as the battery will take it when you have 4G enabled. We've talked about this. It's amazing. Few drones have really been able to compete with the Chinese in that long transmission distance. I will say we did experience some latency when flying it on Wi-Fi, and in some dense urban environments, the latency was so significant on Wi-Fi. Switching over to 4G, we had less latency as a whole. So that was kind of cool to see that. Now let's talk about the Free Flight 7 application. This is where I think drone mappers are gonna thrive. There's so many cool features in this drone, and this might be the next best construction drone as a whole because of the cameraman feature, the ability to track objects. Let's say you're doing an inspection and you want to literally hone in on one object, and no matter how you move the drone, that particular object is still in your frame. These are really cool features from this drone, and they work fairly well. It is a very easy and intuitive, seamless user interface on the Free Flight 7 app. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but not very much. What I love is that Pix40 Capture is actually built into this app. So they call it photogrammetry tab. You go in there, you can create single grids, double grids, orbits, and there's an additional awesome flight mode for essentially autonomously seeing an object and being able to map and fly around it. There's another photo mode called GPS time lapse, which is essentially the same thing as free flight mode. It's not under the photogrammetry tab though, it's just in your camera settings. So the fact that this drone has like that free flight mode that we know and love to create those 3D models is built right into this drone. I say it's awesome. I love using Parrot Cloud. You can also track all of your data on your drone, your flights, your missions, everything. And another great thing too is if you do have a Parrot Cloud login, what you can do is you can create a mission for a particular drone. Let's say you're in a construction company and you want to have the same Amazon distribution warehouse map at the same time. You can create that mission. You can even create a secondary mission of setting up the waypoints for all of your progression photos. And if you're doing some orbital video motions, you can even set that up as a project as well. And then any user who's signed into your account can actually fly those missions. So this is going to be a phenomenal drone for teams, programs, departments, etc. I'm not sure how much value like fire EMS would get out of this drone, but this drone could be very, very useful for law enforcement, in my humble opinion. On the app itself, you do have a slider bar, whether you're using a phone or an iPad. If you're using an iPad, the slider bar goes vertically. On a phone, it's horizontally. I always like to move that just so I have a full frame of my camera. And again, I love the cameraman mode with the ability to like track buildings, track people, track a particular antenna on a cell phone tower and fly around it and get that serial number much, much easier than having to sometimes navigate around those guide wires. So this drone is going to have a lot of industrial and enterprise value as a whole. And they also have a waypoint mode, which I was looking for like a hyperlapse mode, but using waypoint mode and then the time lapse feature, you can actually pre-program hyperlapses or moving time lapses, which is a really cool feature in itself. Okay, let's talk about the camera. In the Drone U community, we've been talking a lot about how, is this camera a true global shutter or not? There has been speculation, rumors that it is a global shutter. You go into the specs page, the detail, you'll find that the global shutter is actually only on the obstacle avoidance sensors, so But we're gonna run some missions through Pix and see how it reads the camera. If it reads it as a fast readout, that could be great for us because frankly, I've already run mapping missions with this and the imagery turned out really, really great. Special shout out to Glenn LeBay for, clarifying that point too on the global shutter. Really appreciate your insight and feedback in the community. The 4K video on this, the 4K 60, I love it. If you zoom in all the way, does get a little pixelated, but it still provides decent imagery. I also love the fact that on the camera, it does have an auto bracketing feature. So if you're used to shooting that AEB on other DJI products, what you'll find is that you can do the same thing and it's actually going to move the exposure a full step up and a full step down. You can have the drone shoot a 3 or a 5 or a 7 bracket, however you want to set that up. So shooting those raw images stacked, I'm able to create nice panos. I came up with a great one and very happy so far. As far as handling emergencies, there is a compass calibration on this drone. Parrot recommends you do it every time you fly at a new site. We're gonna do some testing because so far we've been flying kind of all over town and we haven't had an issue with it just yet. But this drone doesn't have an attitude mode. Many of you know I love attitude mode, not just for getting smooth shots, but for safety too, to stop a flyaway. Which brings up the question, can this drone fly away? Caveat, if 4G is enabled. I want to bring up the question because there's GPS information that's embedded in a cellular signal. So I want to know if the GPS on the drone fails, does it use the cellular information as redundancy? Because that could be a really, really intelligent way of just negating the flyaway problem as a whole. It's my biggest question. Now let's get to mapping. This drone, like I said, has autonomous missions built into it. It even utilizes utilizes the Pix4D kind of user interface if you're used to that. And they also work with other photogrammetry engines, by the way. But they worked with Pix4D to offer a cloud integration. So you can literally be flying a construction site and be mapping it and autonomously uploading those images to the Pix4D cloud, and even have an orthomosaic or a point cloud. Very, very fast turnaround. So this is a force multiplier for mapping. And frankly, you can't ignore this tool when it comes to drone mapping. In conclusion, I really enjoyed flying this drone. It's got a lot of cool features too that are gonna propel the industrial space, the inspection space, the enterprise space. But frankly speaking, we've got a lot of new drones from DJI recently. They're not that fun to fly because they're software limited, that yaw prioritized over the roll. We've talked about this before. And frankly, this drone was a lot of fun to fly. It's stable, it's fun, it's capable, it's robust. You know, when we first got the drone, I was thinking it would be like the older Anafis, which were frankly underpowered. And this is a much more well-built drone. It's very robust, and it's gonna empower true BVLOS operations. I mean, you know, in looking for a new all-in-one drone to compete with some of the ancient aircraft, it's been difficult to find anything that truly competes on every front. That said, this particular drone opens up new verticals and new fronts that we haven't had access to before. So frankly, you can't ignore the capacity of this particular aircraft in how many verticals it can truly serve across the industry as a whole. The drone mapping vertical of the industry has been seeking an evolution anyway. We've all been expecting what's next, what's new, what's gonna help all of us at a decent price point. This drone is going to disrupt that industry vertical for the better. This level of competition is gonna force other people to make great drones, and we don't have to wait for those drones to come out, because this aircraft was designed to deliver, and frankly, its capacity and capability and portability paired with its amazing camera sensor makes it a drone that can't be ignored. Even when DJI is releasing higher priced drones with less features, they opened up the door to real competition. Parrot didn't just walk through the door, they flew through it with the Anafi AI. Highly recommend this drone. It has a real potential to disrupt the aerial mapping vertical of drones as a whole. And check out our Don't Crash course, free to members on Drone U. Also, we're gonna be adding the Don't Crash course for our props programs, our drone programs and teams that we support through the Props Academy. Thanks for joining me. My name is Paul, and I hope that you enjoyed this video trying to find that next evolution in drone mapping. Truly believe this is it.